Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigerian. I am Daniel Atai. In a bid to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus, which has earned the pandemic status worldwide, several countries of the world had announced measures bordering on socialization and human relations to contain the mobility of the ravaging virus through human-to-human contact. In Nigeria, the federal government had placed restrictions on travels to and fro some countries, ordered the closure of schools, both public and private, and prohibited the social gatherings of not more than 50 persons, as well as some other personal measures being advocated by the National Center for Disease Control. Now, Sunday the 22nd of March was a case study in the compliance of the public to the guidelines and measures put in place by the federal government, as there were several reports from some quarters in Nigeria where some religious denominations did go ahead to conduct their services in defiance to the stipulated guidelines by the federal government. Some of these religious centers went scot-free, while some others were not so lucky, as they felt the brunt of some of the law enforcement agents who forcefully interrupted and dispersed their activities. Let's take a look. That means we will be talking about public individual rights versus public good. Which one comes first? Take a look at this video before we continue.
This intervention through our declaration.
Very law abiding. Thank you. Please pray for the nation, please. Pray for the world. All right. Thank you.
Today more than ever.
That were some footages from some religious organizations like you could see their names. I wouldn't want to mention, but I believe their signboards, spelled clearly. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, the actions of the religious organizations and the reactions from government agents had generated mixed reactions, with questions bordering on individuals' rights and public good. The Charter on Human Rights provided for the individual's right to association, right to movement, right to religious worship, social relationships, and affiliations. The measure and guidelines put in place by the government, some argue, go against these fundamental rights, giving rise to these critical questions. In the face of between the individual rights and public good, which come first? That is what we would like to know. And are there alternative ways the government would have gone about the business of containing the spread of the virus, given its mandate of protection of lives and property? In the seeming face-off between the individual faith and the common good, should government agencies apply enforcement? These are some of the issues we will be looking at on this episode of Spectacle. I have with me in the studio Comrade Okafor Obinna. Comrade Okafor Obinna is a social analyst and a vibrant national comrade on this kind of issue. And by my left is Honorable Kenneth Angbo. Angbo Kennedy is a politician and a right activist. Please stay tuned.
His intervention through our declaration.
Very law abiding. Please pray for the nation, please. Pray for the world. All right. Thank you.
Welcome back. I was introducing my guest analyst in the studio, and I've introduced Honorable Angbo Kennedy, who is a rights activist and an analyst. I will begin from you. Judging from these restrictions by the federal government, particularly Lagos State and some other states, do you think that this restriction goes against individuals' fundamental human rights?
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the question. I do not think that, well, in an abnormal circumstance, an abnormal reaction is normal. And so I am one of those who's of the opinion that we're not taking enough bold, audacious, and critical decisions as it relates to the spread of COVID-19. Yes, individuals have certain rights and freedoms as enshrined by our constitution, but when you are in a state of war, every right is suspended.
Okay.
And therefore, this is war. It's been globally accepted term to be a pandemic, which is affecting every nation. I mean, if countries like US are shutting down their system, Italy yesterday arrested over 70,000 citizens of theirs because of non-compliance to the stay-at-home order given. And then we saw the British Prime Minister also saying that they might take draconian measures if the citizens do not comply with the government measures that are, and instructions that have been given. Now, we should bring it back home. I do not think that we should wait until we get to 1,000 people before we begin to take these decisions. And I particularly feel very pained by the reactions and what I saw yesterday from some clergymen, and not only yesterday, even on Friday. On Friday, I went around the city center and I noticed that the National Mosque had some level of compliance, but the mosque at one of the mosques around town, let me not mention names, didn't comply at all. I saw people thronging out of the mosque, and also was shown also in Daura where the imam gathered the people and he said, and these people were within close proximity. Now also we have, yesterday on Sunday, we saw so many churches across the country, especially in Abuja and Lagos, defying the orders of government. And I think that is callous on the part of our religious leaders. They have a stake to play, they have a serious role to play in this matter. Truth be told, when we had the first case in Nigeria, the index case, I think that was the time we should have taken drastic measures. Now we've gotten close to 40. I can tell you that it is exponential in its spread. And so we probably cannot contain this the way it's going, because I do not see that we have enough measures on ground. So I do not, as far as I'm concerned, I do not think that we should talk about individual rights here, because public good is what is important. Because right now we've already lost one person, and this can only spiral. So we do not need to wait for us to have 5 cases of death or fatality before we can now begin to shut down the system. I have advocated and I sent messages to some people in government, and I told them at this point we should shut down the system. Now the problem, the concern is the economy. Whether you like it or not, every economy in the world must shut down. There is no exception to the case. And so the earlier the better. So we now begin to think about what are the possible solutions, what measures should we now begin to look at. And I have profiled some of those solutions, but that's not the question you have asked me. So I think that as it relates to the issue of rights, every right stands suspended. And I think it will get to a point where I would even advocate that the president be given full power as enshrined by the Constitution, that when there is war, you should allow the president to have absolute power.
All right, I'll come back to you because Comrade Obinna Okafor, who is also the national president or chairman of the Nigerian Taxpayers Association, will also do justice to the economic aspect of it. But before we go into that, let me ask you, do you see this as going against the fundamental rights of worship, religious right of worship, because those churches and mosques were still, flaunting the order of the federal government.
Thank you very much. I think it's wonderful coming on board this program this afternoon. Good day, Nigerians. I want to say this. At this juncture, there is no need to talk about religion or no religion in a matter of this. Nigerians at this point are supposed to be very conscientious of their life. You must be alive to worship God. And we over the years, people have been so deceived. Some people believe that it's when they go to church that they meet God. God is everywhere. God is in your house. God is in your office. So you cannot be hypnotized to the level of believing that when you don't go for service, you're already in hellfire. So these are part of those things. And we should always understand that when we allow this thing to spread, it will be very damaging in the system because we are not prepared. Even the Constitution of Nigeria didn't have a window for a case or a situation like this. What we know is a situation of emergency, you understand?
Yeah.
But nobody talked about health emergency. So now, the so-called flagship church in Nigeria, the clergymen in Nigeria, this is the right time for them to listen to the voice of God. I want to say emphatically that coronavirus have eaten so deep in country like Italy. Don't forget, Catholic Church, the capital of Catholic Church is in Vatican City,
Yes.
in Rome, in Italy. So if this very particular pandemic disease can ravage people in a so-called holy city, it's nothing to write home about. So people should not be so deceived, believing that going to church is a way to go at this time around. Nigerians should curtail their movement. And this is the right time for you to remember that your family loves you. You need to enjoy loneliness. This is the right time for anybody to come back to himself or herself. Mm-hmm. It is a period of solitude. It is a period of self-control, because we have been getting it wrong. And another thing is this: government of Nigeria must be proactive. Time is of essence. The time to speak is now. The time to action is now. There is no way government will make pronouncement and some clergymen will go contrary to it. It is unacceptable. Nobody can be an outlaw in Nigeria. This country belongs to every one of us. You see, let me tell us, one of the biggest industry in Nigeria is church, whether we like it or not. Yes. After politics, another money-making machine in Nigeria is church. Religion. So, because...
It's church or religion?
No, it's religion. Okay.
I mean
to say it's religion. And that is more reason why, as the president of Taxpayers Association of Nigeria, I can tell you that even those so-called founders of church, if they can look for an atmosphere on how to assist federal government, state government in job creation, I don't think the level of stark naked wretchedness in the system will remain at this level. Nigerians are frustrated. There is unfavorable atmosphere. There is no future in the system. And that is more reason why in this part of the world it will be near impossible for people to restrain their movement. Because when you sit down home, you don't have 1 naira in your account. When you sit down home, you are not even sure of the next meal. It's a very big challenge. So when you tell that rural woman, when you tell that urban woman that goes to a particular market to sell 1 or 2 articles, to remain at home, when she looks around and remember that with these strings of children, she's not rest assured of the next meal, it becomes a very big problem. There is no palliative from government. As far as I am concerned, there is no palliative. It is a very terrible situation. You understand?
Yeah.
People are facing a hopeless situation. So this is the right time for government to wake up. We want to hear from our government. This is it's no longer politics, because what we are talking about is this. Don't forget, over 13 million Nigerian youths leave higher institution on yearly basis, and less than 3 million of these children end up getting jobs, and even less than these 3 million that normally get this job, over 40% of them get jobs that are below the standard. They are usually underpaid. That is more reason why some graduates are cleaners in hotel, some are riders, some are taxi drivers. It is quite frustrating. And in a situation like this, we have organizations of government, agencies of government, like National Social Investment Program. This is the right time. Government need to use all the arsenals to proffer solution to this terrible situation. Nigerians wants to see palliative.
I was going to ask you in addition, based on your portfolio, that the economic palliative or succor that should be, administered to this restrictions of staying at home and so on and so forth, like we've seen in China, we've seen in UK and in Italy. Do you think that such measures like succor, palliative succor, giving solace to people who will be restricted of their movements and so on, you think the government could afford it economically?
God bless you. I want to tell you that government can afford it 100%.
Giving food to, doorsteps?
No, hold on.
Money?
When we're talking about palliative, it comes in diverse ways.
Okay.
Don't forget, few days ago, there was an approval from government, okay, that government have decided to issue out a circular, a memo, an instruction that 1 trillion naira manufacturing intervention should go into manufacturing companies so as to see how to boost the economy. But the $1 million question you will ask yourself is this. These people, one, they are suffering from epileptic power supply. Are you aware that between 80 and 85% factories in Nigeria are shut down because of epileptic power? They can't function. Now, if you're raising this very particular bar, if you're raising 1 trillion manufacturing intervention fund, how far can they go with it? And don't forget, we have a very terrible system. The late Zik, the late Nnamdi Azikiwe said that one day all of us will leave this bounteous world to the world beyond our ken. There our sorrows, our problems will blend with 6 feet terrain. Our problem, again, is akin to the words of the late Zik, Nnamdi Azikiwe, who said the problem of Nigeria is quadrennial and planlessness. Government budget money, but the biggest problem is that these monies are not impactful. Some people sit down and corner things that would have brought new life to this country. And I think it's high time, this is the right time for the citizens of this country to know who the enemies are. Because what have you achieved in the health sector? Nothing. We saw the wonder of this world in China. Within 7 days, China was able to fix a flagship hospital.
All right, I'll come to that.
So we are not prepared. Nobody talks about it. Government budget, even primary health center, people squander this, people pocket this money, and it doesn't throw gallows. So the problem is, now we are faced with a critical situation like this. It's a matter, let me tell you, as we speak now, the high and the mighty are involved. Coronavirus is not for the poor. That is the problem. So even if those things you kept for yourself and your children, it's possible you might not even escape the ninja trap. There is a very big problem in the land. Now, these are people that have said the future of this country is going nowhere. Don't forget, 25%, children, the youth between the age bracket of 25 years, form 60% of the population of this country. So some men at the age of 70, 80, 90 have squandered the future of a young man that is within the age bracket of 25 years. It is killing. When you analyze what is going on in this country, do you know as we speak now, when you look at the age of some people in government, people that are pocketing the future and the destiny of people of the younger generation, many of these men are already in the departure lane. They are already going. They are about to leave this bounteous world.
All right, comrade.
It's a problem.
I know
so
that.
This is the right time. We need to rediscover ourselves.
All right.
Who have kept this country in this level?
I will get back to you. You are still in the studio. Honorable Angbo, you see the swift action that Chinese government took when the pandemic broke out, and they were able to curtail. And of course, the action before their containment is what I want you to profile. What method, how do we in this country, borrow such method and actualize them, for the people in order to contain the spread of this pandemic? Because as we speak, we have lost one case, and probably nobody knows what is going to happen between now and even the next hour. You understand me?
Well, now you're asking me for solutions.
Yes. Especially with the method. Could we afford the method that the Chinese government
We might not be able to do the Chinese model, but we need to internalize and localize our solutions.
Okay.
I listened to the Minister of State for Health yesterday on one of the TV stations where he was asked questions as to the preparedness of Nigeria, the ministry, and everybody. But first, we must also agree that everybody needs to play a role and a part in this matter. All citizens must, for a fact, abide by the simple instructions or guidelines given by government of various levels. That's the first place to start from. Then the second thing is, what is government doing? Truth be told, when I listened to the Minister of State for Health, I felt that he was a man I loved as a speaker, and I loved him on the floor of the Senate. But I think he has fared very woefully as a minister of health. I do not think both he himself and the substantive minister have done well. That is my verdict. And what am I saying? Wait, what is going on? They asked questions about preparedness. He couldn't tell us emphatically how many bed space we have. Of course, he mentioned the fact that Lagos has about 200 bed space, Abuja has about 100, and that's all he could tell us. And I can tell you that with a population of 200 million people and plus, that is a far cry from what we are looking at. If Italy, in about a month ago, had only 30 cases, and today we're talking about a record of 80,000 people. I think even also in US, 30 days ago, they had about 30 people or less that were infected. As we speak, it's over 30,000. Yeah. We can't play with this thing that is happening to us. And I listened and I watched somebody in the National Assembly say that they should close down prisons and use the facilities as isolation centers. And I think that we're not thinking. That's the critical problem we have. We do not need to shut down our facilities that is holding criminals down. We should keep those people there. But the thing we need to also look at is, number one, all public schools have been asked to go on vacation or to be closed. Can we not convert those things? Who is thinking about that? We need to convert those public spaces to isolation centers. There are abandoned projects, abandoned buildings, abandoned estates, abandoned massive constructions across the landscape of Nigeria. Can we not convert those to isolation centers? We are not looking at that. Then I know, and thank God that CBN came up with 1.3 trillion naira intervention fund. Now we heard that about 100,000 or so of that money, billion rather, is going to be given to 12 pharmaceutical companies. The question I ask is that what are they going to produce? We need to begin to have access to some of the things that need to be done. Now, let us know that we have gone past the area of just saying, wash your hands, use sanitizers. That is mundane. We need to begin to look at drastic measures, like shutting down systems. Now, I was coming here, and I'm glad I came here with some of your colleagues. And the truth of the matter is that we saw people being chauffeured in public buses that contain 40 people, 50 people, 30 people, and you're talking about social distancing. You are not talking about compliance on those things. People go to the market right now. There is nothing, no measures on ground. Listen, until we are serious about this case, because you come to public gatherings and people just shake hands, we throw cautions to the wind. We cannot do that. Right now, we need to begin to look at chloroquine. I mean, the NAFDAC, DG of NAFDAC say that they have given approval for them to test that. Can we see the result? And then let me ask another question.
Clinical approval.
Clinical approval. But let me ask another question. What were the things used, drugs and other things used on the index case? And the second man that we claim to have discharged, can we not be told what those things are? If those things are valid enough, why are we not using them, or why are we not talking about them, so that people can have sense of confidence?
As one of the measures
yes,
for containment.
because we need to know what they did for those people to have gotten out of that.
Because one died, we had a report today that
we cannot rule out fatality. You can, because there are certain reasons for that. Maybe compromise health. Your immune system might be shut down, or the age of the people. Because what is going on globally is that people will compromise health or immune system that is not as strong as it should be. Those are the people who are actually, the fatality is affecting most. But for me, even as an independent person, there are certain measures I'm taking. One of the things we're told is that your immune system needs to be high. And vitamin C is one cardinal area that a lot of people should look at.
And zinc.
And zinc. So the question I am asking the minister and the people in the Ministry of and then the task force is that, have you been able to call pharmacists together? Have you been able to call nutritionists together and look at our local delicacies? What do we need to eat that will give us, that will boost our immunity? These are things that is a massive area we need to look at. We need to look at all the areas that we need to focus on, in terms of hygiene, in terms of nutrition, in terms of social distancing. And then the other area that we need to look at is that what he talked about, palliatives.
Yes.
Truth of the matter is that government, and I've suggested that government needs to look at certain companies and empower them and give them money to produce high content bars of chocolates or stuff and distribute. We need to have a channel where people can distribute these things. It's a lot of work. And I also think that our what do you call it, the NYC scheme, this is the best time for us to use them. This is the best time for us to use all our paramilitary services. This is the best time to use our military services and the police.
Of course, in the US now, the military, they've already intervened.
When we saw the video the clip you showed, I saw those military men, I mean the police, the police officers, and they were touching those people. They themselves have not been trained. And we need a lot of training, we need a lot of capacity building within this period, so that people know what to do and what not to do. Because that man lives there, he had gone to several churches, and he had taught other people. He could be a transmitter of this virus we're talking about.
All right, thank you, Mr. Angbo. And we will still be discussing the political aspect of the containment in the country, and I'm expecting a guest analyst, and I think very soon he will be joining us in the studio when this gentleman will exit the studio. After this short break, we'll be with you to discuss the aspect of the economy with Comrade Okafor. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. We are still discussing a spectacle program talking about between individual rights and public good, which one comes first. And our analysts in the studio have done justice to that. They said public good comes first before individual right. We have signed out Honorable Angbo and the gentleman, a politician who will be giving us a political view of this particular pandemic in the country is already in the studio. Honorable Ojukwu and Ojukwu, a descendant of Odumegu Ojukwu, is right in the studio. Welcome to Spectacle, sir.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Before I come back to you, let me ask the economic blueprint in the SIP, the Social Investment Program of this administration of President Buhari. With recent developments from the corruption cited and alarmed by the wife of the president, the first lady herself, and what the measures we are seeing in other states, dropping the cooks who were even cooking for the public primary school students, and the graduate artisans that the Empower program were feeding. We have learned that some have been subchanged, some were, dropped, removed. Do we even have data to contain this analysis and how we could take succor to these persons? Secondly, judging from the lack of data analysis of transportation, movement of persons from one place to the other, do we have any data like that to be able to know that this person alighted yesterday, this is where the person has gone, this is the state he has gone from this state? Do we have anything like that? Talking about the economic aspect of this data analysis and succor.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important question you're putting across to me.
Yes, sir.
If you try to weigh apple with apple, if you're to lay out the master plan of this country, the economic framework, the way it is being structured, there is no data. The elite...
There is no data.
There is no data. I want you to understand it that way. There is no data. And that is more reason why the Nigerian Social Investment Program, as far as I'm concerned, it is a monumental fraud. It is food for some people. You see, the truth of the matter is that so many of the elites schooled abroad, they understand the importance of data system. That is more reason why, as it is today, and we are faced with this very deadly pandemic disease, I don't really understand where we're heading to. All of us are victim of collateral looting of the state of nation. Now, how do you expect government to do magic? And even as it is today, even the 1 trillion naira manufacturing intervention fund, as far as we are concerned, as the president of Taxpayers Association of Nigeria, we are worried because we know that one is another food for some people. Many of these programs are not impactful. From Operation Feed the Nation down to Nigerian Social Investment Program, down to the one that was commissioned a few days ago, the digital economy that was commissioned a few days ago by Mr. President. That is a very laudable project. Digital economy. It is a way to go. But the truth is, how ready is government? How sincere? There must be transparency.
If the government is not sincere, will the government create these policies and agencies?
Why?
I think...
No, let me help you. Okay. I have told you in this program that from the Society of Project Assessment, whatever, we are aware that in this present day, we have abandoned project valued 12 trillion naira nationwide. And why did I say this? I want to let you know. Why is it that people take over office? People don't consider signature project. You see some abandoned project that has a lot of economic value, but you discover that some people will assume office, they will ignore that project because they have their personal interest, because of unscrupulous and self-centered, mundane in the system. Exactly. People want to reap massively from everything. This new laudable idea that government have conceived, as far as we are concerned, our biggest challenge is the level of unemployment in the system. And up till now, we have seen so many seminars, we have seen a lot of programs launched. We have listened to so many issues, so many modalities on how Nigeria can diversify economy. Don't forget, a few weeks ago, from the crude oil Brent, the price was 57, and today it's 26 point something. So where are we going to? And government have just told you a few days ago that there is deduction of 1.5 trillion from the 2020 budget. And if you are not taking that money, we descend down to capital projects only. There is need for proper economic adjustment program. Everybody must adjust, including the people in government. And there is a message I sent to the Nigerian people, especially to the authority. I said this is the right time for government to stand down. So many projects that are not, so many appropriated projects that are insignificant, namely renovation of National Assembly, 37 billion naira in this harsh economy. Now the economy is lacking so much oxygen. Do you know why some Nigerians are not even worried about coronavirus? Some people are already accident waiting to happen. Some people are depressed, frustrated. So when you tell them not even to go to market or to church, to them they believe they are not even alive. The frustration, the hunger in the land is something else. So we are saying tomorrow Nigerians would be surprised that somebody will tell us that government have gone further. 1998, National Assembly complex was constructed at the value of 7 billion. 22 years later, somebody is saying he wants to do renovation.
I think they
at the tune of 37 billion, which is equivalent to over $100 million. We go to National Assembly, and when they engage some senators and some House of Rep members, you discover that whatever they want to say will be very watery.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Okan, for being now. You have been explicit in your analysis and vividly the audience, I think, have been enticed enough. I'll turn to you and I'll give you a few minutes because you took our time. We were actually waiting for you. On the political aspect, you are a politician, a one-time governorship aspirant in Anambra State. Now, with the level of the coronavirus pandemic that have hit our country and our continent, Africa, now is a worldwide something now. Usually, we used to hear the brouhaha about politics in Nigeria. Opposition will be shouting, the president, the ruling party is not doing enough. Now, do you think this time now is a proper time to attach politics into the fusion of how we could contain this virus?
Thank you very much. You know, I think it's a fool who is a leader that should attach politics to the economic, to the health hazard we already recorded in this country. This morning, someone told me that former PPMC MD just left us. That's Oshogomu, Oshogomu or something like that from Kogi State. Yes. You know, COVID-19, it's an emergency disaster. And every nation has taken precautionary measures, you know, not just for her citizens, but for every single soul around the boundaries. No politician should take it with disdain. It calls for massive attention, both financially, socially, and otherwise, because it's something that, irrespective of your political ideology or your political background, it kills everybody. Whether you are APC, you are PDP, whoever you are, it's a clarion call, okay, for all Nigerian concerted efforts to fight it, because it's a health challenge.
Okay.
Adding to that as well, you know, there should be some similarities politically and health-wise, because when you talk of politics, the leaders of every nation must come up on the platform of politics.
And now, do you think from the opposition angle now, would the opposition, like we see in the UK and in the US, joining forces with the government that be to fight this pandemic? Do you anticipate that in this country?
Yeah. Every hands are on deck for it. Last night, a very good friend of mine had just been tested positive. Coincidentally, is the son of the former vice president.
So I should be,
You know?
I should be
No,
shifting
very
very
good-
away from you right now.
He just came in from the UK. You know what I'm saying? It's basically it doesn't call for political inclinations. It calls for a national emergency situation. Everybody must work hard to get it out of our country. We are fortunate enough that we live in a climatic condition where the weather, to an extent, helps us a lot. I learned in the Western world, the virus can stay up to 72 hours, but in this part of the world, 2-3 hours exposed to hot weather, it dies. So it's
but that is under 70 degrees centigrade, and our weather in the country, our climate condition is not up to 70 degrees centigrade. At least the highest we had from Maiduguri and Sokoto State from the meteorological department is 45 degrees centigrade, which means the virus can even stay 5 days here.
No, I don't think. You know, we have enough time, okay, within our powers to do whatever we should do to get it, to rid it out of our country. Politically, I believe every politician is, Atiku is PDP, this is APC. He had a press conference yesterday through his Twitter, where he told every Nigerian that coronavirus or whatever is real, that we should work hard to get it out of our land. You know, this one is not Buhari's daughter. Alan, the daughter, had been quarantined, coming from
even
the
isolated.
You know, so it's only a fool that should attach politics to this.
Okay, just yesterday, let me say 2 days ago, I saw a chieftain of the APC from the southeast, Tony Momo, clamoring for cessation of power. Decentralization of power to the 6 geopolitical zones. In the advent or in the present fight that we are trying to contain this pandemic of coronavirus, that the power of at the center, it should be decentralized. Would they now say that this pandemic that we are fighting also should be decentralized so that at every region, the 6 geopolitical regions should fight it the way they want to structure in the country?
I have to be very candid with us. Nigeria has a lot of challenges. I pity with the current government, the APC government. Like my colleague rightly said, the country is going down, economically, financially, and otherwise. There's no money. You know, Momo is coming from from his own personal opinion. As a man from the southern part of Nigeria, he believes that apart from being part of the people who got APC to power, he had not been recognized politically. So he is looking at not just coronavirus, but he's also looking at the economic part of it.
Or the individual benefits.
Yeah, you know, that now apart from the individual benefits, you know, I believe by now, Momo should be part of the, if not a minister or a DG. But I'm surprised he hasn't been given anything.
He's an ex-minister.
Because I remember I quote him vividly a few years ago when he said if APC first, stone them. And Senator Baribe always used that word. So for me, I see that as a political, a personal opinion.
Or gimmick.
You know, or gimmick, as the case may be. But at this point in time, no one should fix politics. No one should marry politics with the health challenge we have. This virus is here. And with every sense of humility and honor, we should work hand in hand, concerted efforts to rid it out of our country. Remember the president of South Africa last week, apart from shutting down virtually all 73 borders in South Africa, what he said? He said, even if you are President Donald Trump, if you step into South Africa, we'll go to quarantine you. So if you're not ready for 2 weeks quarantine, you don't come into South Africa. Yeah. That's what a leader should do. Okay. The worst president in Africa is President Nkurunziza of Burundi. Yes. But I can tell you vividly that Burundi is fighting it head on. Then how much more the giant of Africa with all we have? Then we should get every hand on deck to get this rid this out of our country.
Okay, yesterday again, a quarter from the southeast said that the president was about borrowing 2.2 trillion naira from the bank and that they will resist it if the southeastern part, 22.6 you said, $1 billion. I think from the World Bank, that if the southeastern part, they are still talking about regionalism. We're not talking about regions now. We're talking about patriotism, Nigeria, in the fight against COVID-19. Should politics be outplaying this way from the southeastern part, where you hail from?
I've always told you, my good friend, this is not politics. You see, no one, I don't believe you should tell me that the soup prepared by your mother is not good. It's not tasty, no matter how bad it is. You see, the southeastern part of Nigeria hadn't been included in that proposition.
Okay.
$22.7 billion. And I can tell you, in as much as the National Assembly passed it, the Senate passed it, 70% of that money is coming from Chinese bank, with some other concerted platforms where they decided to take the money. But what I am telling you is that for a total, or the whole of the 5 eastern states to be excluded from such platform, then it's uncalled for. And nobody should support it. And apart from that, why are we borrowing? I'm an economist by training.
I know.
And I remember, in a state of anarchy, nobody needs to abide by the law. So in a state of economic anarchy, do you need to borrow?
But you just said that the country is going down and we don't have money.
We don't have money.
So shouldn't we borrow when we don't have money?
You don't need, when you keep on borrowing, you are dying.
Right.
You look inward. My brother said something. He said we have things within our capacities. We have a lot of things that can get, if we get ourselves together, get our house together, we can. He's a president of Taxpayers Association.
Okay.
The money they realize from taxpayers.
Okay.
The 7.5% of the VAT that they had increased the other day, what have they done with it? And I can tell you vividly that he said oil today is 25 point something dollar per barrel. The benchmark is 57. We already have over 30 something dollar deficit. Then how do you finance the budget? Mind you, the recurrent expenditure is almost 60 to 70% of the budget. And mind you, we have debt services. In the total of the 2020 budget, we have 53% of the total budget going for debt services. So what do? Do you still keep on buying spending billions of naira, importing cars for National Assembly members? Do you still keep on making frivolous expenses? What do? You look inwardly. I proposed a few years ago. I proposed through my little capacity to a friend of mine. I said, see, if we should learn from some of these Asian tigers, they used a closed economy to fight poverty in their land. But our own, when we have a small problem, we'll talk of borrowing. The CBN just devalued naira a few hours ago.
Yes.
Should naira be devalued? It's been devalued on several occasions and nothing has been done. Nothing happened, no improvement. The unemployment rate in Nigeria is still going high. Right. Industries are closing up, factories are closing up, joblessness everywhere. Then what are you doing?
Do you think we can contain this virus?
The virus is already dead on arrival in Nigeria if Nigerians are serious about it.
All right, thank you very much for that wonderful take. And on your last note, just 1 minute. Just close up because I want to hear the radical aspect of solution from you.
The solutions are there. In the first place, sometime last year, we were told that federal government wants to go after the international multinational oil companies that are owing us $63 billion. This money is equivalent to 20 trillion naira. I don't know if you are aware of it.
I'm aware of it.
Yes. After we succeeded in signing our deep offshore and basin inland production sharing contract. And I want to let you know, this is the right time for government to drive all the necessary revenues. Are you aware that 174 million Nigerians are captured under NCC as mobile subscribers? These people pay their VAT. Government is generating money from so many areas. As you want to recharge your light, you pay VAT. So, and we also have this stamp duty that banks are unable to account to. There's a lot. Look, these things filter into private pockets, and the citizens are dying. And I want to say this without any fear or contradiction. We need palliatives in this very particular era. Countries like UK have made declaration that people should no longer pay for house rent. In this part of the world, government should come up with something that is more germane. Citizens are sinking on daily basis. And all these social investment programs are not impactful. So this is the right time. We want to be hearing from our president on regular basis. Let him engage. There should be drastic measures. There should be action plans.
Okay, not only hearing, but the action.
Yeah, there should be action plans.
Okay.
Because the citizens, as far as I'm concerned, our faith is hanging in balance. How do we contain this situation? People are already lost. Some people are already kind of accident waiting to happen. But we pray that God of Nigeria will take preeminent.
Thank you very much. The God of Nigeria should take preeminent. And you have said there should be no politics attached to the fight and the containment against COVID-19. And Honorable Angbo just said that, yes, of course, the country can withstand it if the adherence to all the providence of solutions could be contained and followed. This is where Spectacle will stop today on Television Nigerian. And please follow us on our social media platforms to drop your comment and solutions, profile solutions, like our pages. And we are also here to serve you better. Our advertorial platforms are all there for you to call us and give us what you want us to do for you. I have been Daniel Atai. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.